Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Super psyched to be here and to chat with Kevin Honeycutt. Now, if you have not heard Kevin speak before, he is incredibly inspirational, and I'm really excited to chat with him today. So he is in the chat. We are ready to go. Hello, Kevin. You are on it. So we'll wait till he requests to join here, but I'm super excited to see you all, and we're going to get started right away. Here, fastest one that I've ever had joining our chat today. Kevin's ready. He's on it. He's wanting an A+ for all of this. Hi, Kevin.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Doing all right.
Well, you got to show off your jacket because I can already tell there's some art all over it. It looks awesome.
Some teachers customized this for me in a PD. I think because I was an art teacher, they decided. I had just gotten this jacket from a friend of mine, but they just lost their minds and sort of did all these themes that I did in my prezzo, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, right? My wife's like, don't wear that out because we'll put you in.
You got to wear it. You got to wear it. I love it.
And how do you, yeah. See, this is people, right? These are like real people who are so kind.
Yeah. We got a handful of buddies in here now, and we'll begin to have more. Welcome to your first IG Live, Kevin.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Good to be here. And you are such a firecracker. I've just been watching you for a while and thinking, man, she is amazing. You have so much energy and you have so many great ideas and you just share them so wonderfully. And just, I don't know, just if you were my daughter, I'd be so proud of you.
Thank you. That means a lot. That does mean a lot. I really appreciate that. We're just trying to keep it real for the kids and give them the energy they deserve. So that's where I'm at. I know it can be tricky, but we're making it happen. So, okay, well, welcome to the chat. I know we're going to have more people joining us as we start discussing, but how this usually works is we're just going to chat a little bit about you and then dive into some questions. So anybody that's in the chat right now with us, if you think of anything you'd like to ask Kevin or as he's chatting, if you're like, here's something I really want to know, go ahead and type it into the chat or in the question box, and I will be sure to make sure and get us all situated. So first question, Kevin. Some people hopefully are watching that know you and some may not know much about you at all. So can you tell us about you as an art teacher, as a human, as a speaker? Tell us about Kevin.
Let me go through a couple phases. So I'll go all the way back to my childhood. People who listen to me do a keynote, they know that I came up in poverty and foster homes and abuse. It was pretty tough. And I was dyslexic. I'm colorblind. I taught art, tell no one. I didn't know I was colorblind. I don't know what I can't see. And so I just don't tell kids what they can't do. I give them a big list of things they can do. But anyway, all of that's going on. And I run into school after school. I went to school in 20 states plus growing up. So we were always on the run because Dad was breaking the law. And so every time he broke the law, we had to move. So the one place I felt at home, well, two places really, but the art room, number one, because the person who was in the art room was almost always crazy. Like people from my life, like, how's she keeping a job? I mean, that kind of, oh my God, I want to take care of this person because she's the only, that's the room where they don't bend me to match the system. They bend the system to match me.
Oh, that's nice.
How grateful can you be for that? Now, the other room where that happened sometimes was choir. I didn't do band because I couldn't read music and I was embarrassed that I played by ear, but I would be in choir. So it was a combination of probably art teachers and choir teachers who saved me, who I thought, oh my God, I think I could do this. I think I could be this. Understand, to have that thought in my family, I had no role model for graduating high school in living memory.
Right.
So I'm going to go to college. I mean, how do you even have that thought? And so it was these crazy teachers who said, you know, Kevin, you're smart, but not like other people measure. You're clever. And so you can turn that into something. And I'm looking at them and thinking they did it. Maybe I can. So I owe a lot of people. And I owe those art rooms where it was always, I remember the smell of it, just walking in, smelling tempera, smelling clay. You know, I still, when I go to a school, I want to go straight to the art room and smell. I don't know why. It's like, you know.
No, that's not weird. I just thought about that today. I was like, there is dried paint and it feels very pungent today, but I kind of wouldn't change it for the world.
There's clay too. It's sitting there waiting for the pug mail that gets pretty rank sometimes before you really. The kids are like, should we be touching this? Is this swamp? What is this? Yeah, it's set for a while. So anyway, there's that. And then so I taught. I got my job. The first job was 1,300 kids, 5 schools, art on a cart, and I just drove my stuff to every school. And it was crazy because that car was a piece of junk. I mean, you could see through the floorboard. I had to straddle to not put my feet through the floorboard. I called it the ground effects package. She had the ground effects right there. Anyway, I had my cart, you know, my Rubbermaid cart strapped to the top, and I'd have to take it up and down the stairs. And God, clay was so hard because everything weighs so much. But anyway, that taught me a lot. 5 schools and 5 schools worth of teachers taught me classroom management.
Yeah.
Taught me to come in, set up, do the lesson, and clean up in 45 minutes tops. My gosh, so by the time you get everything out, you really got about 15 operable minutes.
Yeah,
Cleanup.
it goes by.
I would rehearse those. I would just rehearse it like a show. I'd call it 7 shows a day, or I'd call it whatever I called it. Because to me, it was like I had to lay that. It had to go quick, right? And I used all these dialects and stuff with kids. I would tell stories. I'll use puppets, whatever, because I didn't have time to get their attention slowly. I had to get their attention like that. So I had to be that sort of actor, crazy man, puppeteer. And I love that. I thought, oh, this is teaching. To be interesting and to whatever. So I've always thought of teaching that way, like kind of acting or performance. I still do that now.
Yeah,
so anyway,
absolutely.
That's kind of the background. I'd say in a nutshell, but that's like a whole bag.
Well, so even just listening to all that, because that's a lot, obviously, right? And a lot of art teachers come from many different, you know, people have had multiple jobs. People have been, you know, like I used to teach at middle school, I'm elementary, like we're all sorts of different levels, and you've run the gamut. So you've been kindergarten through 12th grade and taught, you know, adults and speakers and done all these things. But I honestly, I just heard you say art on a cart, and I was like, okay, tell us about that, because I would love to hear a little bit about what, if you have any hints for people. This year has had more art teachers on a cart, like I was on a cart at the beginning of the year, than ever before, right? Pushed out of our classroom. So what kind of like tips or advice or even just words of encouragement or understanding do you have for people that are like continuing that journey of art on a cart?
You know, boy, I just rehearse things. So like if I'm doing painting, I found this supply of milk lids from the olden days, the glass bottle milk lids.
Yeah.
In Ottawa, Kansas, a factory had gone out of business, and someone gave me like 20 tubes of those original milk lids. Now you can buy stand cups or whatever number of different things. I would say buy cheap, but then I would just squirt in my tempera side by side. So I'd go red, yellow, blue, black, white, and it would just lay together on this beautiful line. They were gorgeous. They looked like desserts, like Martha Stewart, and the kids loved them. And I'd say the first thing kids want to do is stir the whole thing, and then it's going to turn brown, black. So I say, don't do that to the very end, and you all get to stir them. Yay, stir them. And so I had to do like 30 and 30 and 25 for 3 classes in a row, and then jump in my car, drive the whole thing over to another school, and do 3 more. So it was no time. Everything had to be fast. I felt like McDonald's squirting out ketchup on little burgers. And then also you had to have an extruder. God, thank God for the extruder, because for clay, I had to pump out cylinders, hexagons, whatever, to make little clay cups with kids. And so I had to prefabricate, and I had a slab roller. So I cut out with a cookie cutter, you know, all the bottoms, all the handles, all the sides. So I had to have 75 of those on the cart.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing with that number one, they score them, they put them together. I had to take them back to the Arts Council, let them dry, take them back to the school without breaking one of 1,300 of these. And I didn't break any. But when the kids put their name on the bottom, and this is crucial, right? You get that many kids. You know how grade school kids write. You cannot, there's an amazing thing that art teachers can do. We can decipher some of the craziest hieroglyphs that anyone's ever seen. You know, right? You know that's like, that kid.
Oh, I know who that is.
But if they don't write it and then smooth it out on the foot, they're going to scratch mom's table, and it's going to be your fault. And they can scratch mom's table. And that's like, oh, you know. So no, they got to smooth that out a little bit on the bottom, because once that dries, and anyway, take it back, and they glazed it. I can't believe I got through all of that. And it taught me a whole lot, of course. So ninja preparation. I would stand in front of the mirror and do the set, right? Do the lesson. It was usually a story based on a story. The kids would love the story. And then in the story, I taught them steps, right? So cylinder, bottom, scoring, smoosh it together, handle, scoring, attachment, all of that stuff. Sgraffito. I made sure they say the words over and over and over, because I'm only there 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's a blink.
I'm the ice cream man of education, I called myself. But those kids remember.
But they're excited. But they're so excited to hear the ice cream coming.
They remembered that I got kids in their 30s who still remember when we
Yeah.
did our little cups and our little the things that we the painted ancient Chinese. I had to do ancient, so sort of you ever do like painting with Chinese watercolors, the Sumi kit?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, well, the version for 1,300 kids is black tempera, water,
Uh-huh.
a toothpick, because the tip of it is not unlike a wet, sumi brush.
Oh,
So they would
sure.
put it in sideways, and then we would lay it down on the paper and pull. So we go pull, 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 and that'd be a section of bamboo. Then we'd use
Ooh.
the tip, right? The tip, and we would do branches. And then for the leaves, you touch sideways and you pull up, so it gets pointy. So once the kids learn that, they can do it with a toothpick. And
Yeah.
I had to keep it small because I had an administrator who said, "You're never painting in my school." And so immediately I painted next, because I will not be told what I cannot do. And you don't know the paints I pick. I pick paints that come out. I can get those paints out.
Yes.
And that's the first thing that happened. This guy comes in. He's a tired old bear. I'm doing my little Chinese things. And he could be just in wonder, over how great the kids were doing. These third graders were rocking Chinese painting, Chinese calligraphy, all of it. And one of them drops his little paint. And of course, it's got to land upside down. It's got to land
Yeah.
upside down in the carpet. And he just looks at me. I felt like Mr. Holland, my opus just got canceled.
Oh no.
But he left, and I had it up in 5 minutes after class. You couldn't see the stain was ever there. Because that's one thing you learn as an art teacher is I can get any stain out of anything. But you have to be
Yeah.
smart about materials that you use, because I don't care if you have paint shirts. I'll guarantee you it's the girl that has the $100 blouse for some reason in art class. It's going to ruin that. It's going to snag on something. And that's the phone call you're going to get. After all the beauty that you created with those children, you're going to get a phone call ripping you a new
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
we've all been there for that one for sure.
you just got to smile and nod your head and realize on the whole, the kids, they're enriched by the things that we get to do. I mean, how great is that?
Absolutely.
And the way they can get out their feelings. And that's just the greatest thing about being an art teacher is that you can help kids sort of express themselves. At the high school, junior high level, we did a lot of abstract expressionism. And really, we kind of attacked the canvas with feelings translated to color. And we did a lot. I mean, I can show you paintings around here. They're upstairs that look like you just attacked. And the first colors the kids would use would be black, they'd be red, they'd be alizarin crimson, the color of blood. They were so angry.
Yeah.
And then we would paint for a week. And by the third painting, there's yellow. And by the fourth painting, there's blue. And by Friday, they're painting normal colors. But they had to get that toxic stuff out of them. And to me, I let them do that, right? You could do that with music or poetry or a little more complicated. But with art, if you got that stuff on the table, butcher paper on the wall, ready to sacrifice that wall, and that's the first thing you got. You can't keep your room perfect. I mean, show me a perfect art room and I'll show you someone that's not going far enough, probably. You got to make a mess and make a deal with the janitress. That's what I did. I said, honey, you never have to clean my room again. I'll clean my room. And she said, thanks. And we were friends after that. I just said, my kids clean up pretty well. And on Fridays, I make it really clean and make the sink clean, get the clay out of everything. And we were happy. But
Nice, nice. I just pay with chocolate. I always just have a desk drawer filled with chocolate for when I need to pay on the really messy days. I just leave little trinkets out and I say, today's a rough one.
Brilliant. That's good stuff. And my biggest mistake, my first year teaching, the janitress came in and she said, I had painted all these glowing solar systems on the walls and ceilings. So when I turned the lights off, if the kids were really good, I'd turn the lights off and they'd get to see, when their eyes adjusted, this amazing starscape. And she said, you painted on my walls. I said, oh, I'm sorry, you're confused. No, I painted on my walls. And she looked at me, I looked at her, and I realized I had just blown it. And don't make a custodian angry. Don't do that. My briefcase disappeared. With requisitions in it, everything I need in it just disappeared. Weeks go by. One night, I'm finally losing my mind, and behind the urinals in the guys' room, there's a door you open up to service the back of the urinals. This is stuff I shouldn't be talking about. Anyway, I walk back there. I go through there and I walk all the way to the back, and my briefcase is back there. And I realize, don't make a custodian angry. That's a
no.
No, you get the chocolates out. So you got the right route. It just took me a year.
You gotta bribe and love.
It took me a year to get over myself, but yeah.
I love it. Well, it sounds like you had quite the experience, especially on the card, being prepared, teaching for so long, right? You're quite an experienced veteran teacher, but you have recently dove into the world of speaking, Kevin, right? And you've been doing some keynote speeches and TEDx talks and like all these different things speaking. So can you tell us some of your favorite things that you've spoken about, or your favorite tips and hints specifically for educators that you've really felt have hit home for a lot of teachers?
The fun part, I bring creativity. And I've learned under promise and over deliver. I'm not there to out PhD anyone. In fact, I have the Gilligan approach where they think, oh, he's no threat. And by the time they realize that I am smart and that I do know what I'm doing, I've got them already. But if I go in there and act like I know, there's always a cross-armed person there to out-know you. And I just won't take that person on. I won't. I'm a nice guy, and I really am. I get there early. I set up chairs. I clean up afterwards. I'm still a teacher. So I'm going to tell jokes. I'm going to tell stories. And in my stories, I'm always the Luddite. I'm always the one that took too long, the one that didn't do, Instagram Live until today. I go ahead and own that, because the most reluctant person in the room, they're sitting there waiting to hate me. And when they go, he's like me. See, this is the secret to everything. People have to think that you like them and that you're like them. And this is exactly what works with kids. Exactly. Just everything great teachers do works on stage with adults. It's just harder with adults, and especially administrators, because they're convinced something on their phone is more important than you, no matter what you're talking about. So if you can earn them, if you can win them over for an hour, I mean, you can do almost anything. And I teach this to kids, to adults. How do you take your story and turn it into this 1 hour, make everyone in the room happy that they're teachers, make them re-believe in themselves? I live for that. And now I know that's why I was on earth. Teaching in the classroom was so close to teaching on stage that I thought it was probably what I was supposed to do. And it was. But a lot of times what you're supposed to do lives right next door to what you're doing. You just don't know it. And if you just walk over to this house and turn up the volume, that's where you belong. But you give a chunk of your life. I gave 13 years to that K-12 situation. And then since then it's been teachers. And yes, probably 20 times a year I get to talk to the whole student body in your school. That's pre-K-12. I go in and talk about technology. I talk about starting your own store. Like right over there is my 6-year-old's Etsy store where he does his 3D printing and he sells limited edition prints.
Nice.
He writes his own thank you letters and he keeps track of his budgeting. And it's been just a thrill and fun to show him that his art can become this way to make money and this way to pay the bills. We're just having so much fun. It's great.
I love it. That's perfect. I mean, I could just listen to you talk about the things around you and the things that you do forever, because I feel like it's just like all these snippet little quotes. It's amazing. You're going to show us his Etsy shop?
I'm going to walk over. I got to show you a couple of things.
We got to know. I know he's a pretty talented artist.
I went on eBay and found an old MakerBot digitizer. They're hard,
Nice.
It's hard to buy a new one for under $7. I don't have a lot of money. So this was a couple $100. Yeah. Okay. But I can put a clay sculpture on here. So we make all the clay stuff and he makes the craziest little, here's one of his sculptures here. Play-Doh. No, but that's a robot, right?
Oh,
yeah. On the back. Step on that at midnight in the kitchen. Why don't you? Okay. But if I scan that, right? If I scan that, I can 3D print that. So that's what we do. We go from a sculpture that he does. Let me see if I can find one that's handy right here. Because we look at objects like this is a replica of an upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherer knife, right?
Awesome.
So then we look at that and we make it in clay and then we scan it, then we print it. Because I'm trying to show him that we can make one and sell it on Etsy and we're done. Or, right, we can make a bunch. So this is one of his products right here. We make these, he calls them vegan wishbones.
Ooh, cool.
So no turkey died, right? But if you want us to drill a hole, we drill a hole. We use embroidery thread to match these so we can do any color. So, and he also does these he calls them pendant people. So this is one of his little pendant people.
Ah, that's awesome.
He draws them on his phone and then they print. So I'm convinced that, look, you can get a 3D printer, go on Thingiverse and basically shoplift from other people, 3D plagiarism, I call it. Or I would rather have my 6-year-old create like a 6-year-old stuff that he really did and sell that, whatever that looks like. These are all his sales. And by the way, this is his store, Gadgets by Gibson. It's and you can find that over on Etsy, right? So when
I love it.
and he sits down and writes a letter. Then we figure out shipping. We weigh everything.
What an amazing way to connect with him too, and just be there for every step of being an artist all the way through. Because I think sometimes I watch artists, and that's the biggest struggle. That's beautiful. That's the biggest struggle, is once you have to become an artist and a business person too, it can be so difficult. So it's really great that you're modeling for that, for him and for everybody, to show that this is a legitimate career opportunity.
It's not a crime to pay the bills, and I tell kids, in the Renaissance, people had, Michelangelo had the Pope. I mean, people had benefactors, and that's awesome. We don't have the Pope, but we can make ourselves benefactors by selling some stuff. Like that little painting I just showed you is a little Bob Ross inspired painting that my 6-year-old did. He did every stroke of this thing.
Yeah, so it's gorgeous.
So we're doing a run of 30, only 30. And I'm teaching
beautiful.
them that if we sell them for only 30, we can charge more. So we're $5 each, and then we have to put them in a shipping package and all of that stuff. But then we're going to do his next painting. Georgia O'Keeffe is his next inspiration. He did poppies. Awesome. They're so cute. So we're just having fun with that. And we only sell a few. We probably sold 14 things. It's not the point about how many right now.
Yeah.
It's about that art has value, and people want your art, but you have to make it nice. You have to thank them, right? You have to be nice to people.
Yeah.
And people don't buy art, they buy artists. And if you're a jerk, no one wants your stuff. So you're right. I mean, that kind of is bringing it full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, which was that connection to an art educator, to an artist, to a person. Those things are what we want as humans, are those connections. And right, seeing your son's work, it's like, oh, I can tell that he's excited about that, and he made that, and he wants to express himself creatively. So that's why that is so beautiful to see. It's because we're seeing that human to human connection, and bringing us sort of full circle to what we do really matters, right? Because that's what, if it's not about connection, I don't know what it's about, right? Because that's what it is. It's a very nice way to say it, really well articulated. Because A Starry Night, that song by Don McLean, when he says, portraits hung on empty walls, frameless heads on nameless walls, there's no audience. And without those connections, you don't have an audience. Without an audience, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're creating things that no one ever sees. It's like writing books that no one ever reads, or writing songs that no one ever hears. It's all about that audience. And, research tells us that kids are more into what they're doing if they feel like there's an authentic audience for what they're doing. And they'll ask you, why do I need to do this? And if you can't say, because, a bunch of people are going to see this next week, or the big art opening is tomorrow, or then it is just sort of, there's a lot of kids who aren't motivated by just doing it for one person. If you think about that, how many famous authors would have written any of their books for an audience of one?
Mm-hmm.
So part of our job is to get it out there, right? And you're doing that on Instagram, and we're all trying to, by the way, if you go on Instagram, follow my account, you'll see the art projects that we do, and the science and the robots, and we're just doing a whole lot of creative building. There's stuff in my house. I got cardboard stuff everywhere.
Love it.
With the mess.
Yeah. After this, tell us about your little truck there, Kevin.
This is another teacher. I met another me out there, and he gave me this, because I build spaceships and submarines and all this stuff with my kid, and he just he gave me that to put in the back of my car and drive home. So he loves this. But I found another crazy cardboard person. I've been doing cardboard sculpting for just, I don't know, 30 years probably.
I'm going to interrupt you. Tell me you have used a canary knife before.
Oh my gosh. I've seen them. I've lusted after them, but I'm still back in that place where I'm using these. I use, let's see, let me think about it for a minute. There's an Australian company that makes these really cool kits that have screws that little kids can screw into cardboard.
Interesting.
They're awesome. And then you can take them apart, save the cardboard for later. So there's no duct tape rippage and all of that mess. And they also have little saws that little kids can cut with. And yes, it takes a while, but there's a sense of accomplishment when you've cut your little doors. I think for the teacher side, I have other tools that I use that are really fast when I'm doing preps. Like 50 kids are coming tomorrow. I need 50 sets of wheels, 50, 100 axles, and I have them all prefab because I've got 40 minutes. And so they're grabbing and going, and then the creativity is the painting on the outside, or maybe they want to put 6 wheels on instead of 4, whatever. That happens, but these things happen so fast that I can rip duct tape faster than any human on the planet. Oh, you
your
should see. It's my ninja
number one
power.
talent.
I can rip it, and I set it on the edge of the table because the kids are going to come in. The first few kids are going to make the duct tape stick to itself, and therefore it won't work.
Oh
But
yeah.
it doesn't matter. So you pre-rip 1,000 pieces of duct tape, and they all
The
come in.
things that we are like factory line workers at is insane.
Well,
It's
a
crazy.
novice wouldn't know. They try to rip it. No, it's got to be a clean right angle with your thumb at the top, fingernail pressed into the duct tape. Rips like nothing, and then they
I
see it and
love
try
it.
it, and they're like, "I can't make it rip." I'm not teaching you.
Like butter, like butter. Well, okay, so I love seeing all of your projects, and that kind of brings me back to your classroom a little bit. I did see a question here from some of our viewers, which I thought was really helpful to sort of think a little bit about how we guide our curriculum and how we make decisions for our students. So I'm just going to read what she wrote. She
Sure.
said she's excited to switch to the tab method next year, and notice that you also have some tab connections in the way that you're doing a lot of choice-based work and teaching for artistic behavior. So do you ever approach your classes in that way, or did you? And what has your experience been? So what kind of ways do you set up rules and regulations for a more choice-based art experience?
Two things. One, go to kevinhoneycutt.org, click on resources. Then when you end up there, go to my project-based learning units. A colleague of mine and I worked for 10 years to build an entire thing of just project-based learning units that you can. They're really soup stock. They're little recipe cards, kind of like Betty Crocker. So you look at it and go, oh, but I'll do it this way. So you don't have
Sure,
to
yeah.
marry them, date them, and make it your own. But I spent a big piece of my career taking the things that got kids excited, like we're going to build Amelia Earhart's plane, we're going to build Mount Vesuvius in Pompeii, we're going to erupt Pompeii on Friday, we're going to find a way to get everybody out this time, make a better evacuation plan. So it's critical thinking
That's awesome.
together with just a big project that kids are so excited about. They can't wait to get there tomorrow. Parents are videotaping because it's not just teaching. They're living this. It's this like crazy thing that they tell me about when they're 35 years old. And they're like, remember when we built that? They remember
Yes.
every detail. And I think that's what happens, right? That emotion cements learning. How you feel at the time of learning is forever associated with the learning, but emotion is a permanent marker, whether good or bad. So if you hate school and you hate the class, that writes on you with permanent ink. If you love the class, right, conversely,
Yes.
that writes on you with permanent ink. And so my goal is to always make sure I'm writing with permanent ink. I may only have them 40 minutes once a week, but by gosh, they're going to love art. And when they do get a chance to take an hour-long class, they're going to take it because they had Mr. Honeycutt. I live for that. That's my thing, right? So giving them choices, yeah, I'm all about that. I'm all about making sure they can break the rules. In fact, they don't perceive rules. They do know that we have a deadline on Friday. And I do work on deadline because I think it's important, because any job you get in the world, you're going to have deadlines and get fired if you don't hit them. So, but I think you have to have a soft deadline at the midway. So let's say they got to be done by Friday. Well, Wednesday, we're going to have a pre-presentation where the kids are going to stand up and hold what they do have and present like it's done. And that's when they're going to say out loud, you'll hear it, oh my gosh, we're not even close to done.
Right.
Because I'm working against
a little bit of freak out. Yeah.
They don't have a prefrontal cortex developed yet. So they don't have a sense of time. That's our job, to teach them how to do that. So the soft deadline helps them kind of redouble their efforts and be done by Friday so they don't crash and never want to do a cool project again. So that's one. The other thing is just cataloging the experience as you go, taking pictures of it before it's done, making sure that they can tell the story behind the art, not just show the art, because no one knows. They look at finished work, of a third grader, and they're like, well, it's pretty good. It's a third grader. Good gosh. It's great. You understand? It's Mensa. It's, Christie's auction, because she's amazing, but you're comparing her to what? Some Pinterest thing you saw? Right. So I have to help them understand. I have to help the parents understand what we had to do to get to here, so they'll appreciate those baby steps, because those baby steps become, all of this. I'm preaching to the choir.
No, it's good. It's great to hear and remind us, because sometimes those things that we know, or those things that we trust in our gut about why are we teaching in the way that we are, sometimes get lost when we're like in the thick of it. So I'm like, I gotta wash the dishes. I gotta like cut my paper or whatever. So that prep, that sort of monotony, that part of the art teaching world can get sort of stressful, especially during this pandemic. Teaching is kind of got a mind of its own. But I also think it's good to take a step back and realize, okay, what's my why? What's my compelling why about why I'm here? And what am I giving my kids? And I love, hearing that emotion cements learning, like that I just want on my wall, because I feel like the emotion, the environment, the safety, the love, the humor of a classroom is what makes kids remember that learning experience. And that's what's going to make them, you know, want to be there and be excited about learning. And
Wow.
I love that reminder.
You know, I spent some time teaching in the outback in Australia. I love going to Australia because I'm not Kevin over there. I'm Kevin over there. I'm teaching on Groot Island, right, in the Bay of Carpentaria, I think. Groot Island, Groote, Groot Island, Eylandt, for some reason, Island. Teaching Aboriginal kids there, working with teachers, and one of the teachers says, Kevin, point of information, don't go near the water. I said, why not? I said, a croc took a man last week. I said, took him where? A croc ate a guy, just harvested a human, just right over there. So they're all blasé about things that are deadly over there, right? But painting over there, enjoying over there, I mean, I don't have language, so all I have is the art. All I have is the visual. And right, and we're looking and focusing on their totem animals, and we're just trying to give to that culture, right? To be open to what matters to them. And it's amazing the things that you see. But what you do find is that kids and teachers are the same everywhere I go. There's no big difference. The teachers do their best to do great by the kids, and kids have amazing things they come from, they know that they can do. And I think it's just a matter of activating that, creating, you know, a situation that lends itself to the kid just stepping on the gas and going for it and having that big moment when they go, oh my gosh, when they surprise themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and then showing that to people, their family, making sure people see that this is kind of amazing stuff that we get to do, right?
We're activating that excitement, that creativity, that love of looking at the world in just a little bit of a more specific way, a little more interesting way. I love that. I also have another question here I don't want to miss, and hopefully you'll, if I read it exactly, maybe you'll you can help me figure it out. It says, how many teachers work with you on a project? Do you design it yourself, and with which grades and how many? Love your ideas, but just have to have a lot of energy to carry the ideas out. So do you find that you're doing a lot of like thematic units with other teachers, a lot of cross-curricular design, and how do you go about doing that to facilitate a successful project?
First, I find a crazy teacher who's willing to just go on, like if you and I said, let's do a thing where you're going to be the head on the wall, the great and powerful Oz, whatever you want. Look, I'll be whatever you say you want me to be. I've got no ego about this. I've done this too long. But you can say, Kevin wants us to design a book cover for his next book. And I'm like the author who has all these expectations. Or Kevin wants you to design your own invention that does this or does that. And then I show up on the wall several times during the unit. And then in the end, they get to show off their stuff. And we record that. And we put them in what I call the virtual trophy case. Because a lot of kids have no history, no family history of success. There's nothing in their trophy case. So I want that for them. So, and I don't want it to just be, oh my gosh, his third grade teacher had one, but the fourth grade teacher didn't. Therefore, it just disappeared at the end of third grade. We do this sometimes. You have this amazing teacher, and she publishes their stuff, and they're proud of it. And there's 1,000 likes online, and they're already sort of a pre-artist with a pre-audience of pre-customers. Great. But what about when you go to a school and there's a sketchbook, and no one's ever seen the kids' art? It's Emily Dickinson. This is why I say to kids, look, don't be Emily Dickinson. Don't die with a trunk full of genius and become famous after you're dead. Live out loud now.
Yeah.
And your audience will find you, right? So, but when I'm working with other teachers, and this can be K-12, this can be pre-K-12, this can be juvie, this can be alternative schools, this can be prison. I've done that. Whatever that is, we come up with a project that we think will make sense to them, that they'll be excited about. And then we get the thing done. We get all the way done, and we declare victory. We spike the ball in the end zone and say, let's do that again. Let's do that again. And try to create that new sort of idea in their head. And one more thing I had to talk about, temporal learning. No one talks about temporal learning. Temporal learning means learning during the passage of time. That's exactly how we learn. We learn while time is going by. And we are creatures that are good at that. We are story creatures. A story happens while the learning happens. So a good teacher creates a lesson that is in itself a story. If you want to test this, ask your kids what they did in school today when they come home. And they almost always say nothing. Because the way we learn at school doesn't thread together in a temporal manner. But a great teacher creates a story, a reason And that reason becomes the highway. So your classroom is the highway for stories to happen. And those stories are forever. They're rewindable. You understand?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
if you don't remember, then you didn't learn. So it didn't thread together. Here's how you know. And you're young, so I don't know if this will work for you. In the olden days, before you had shuffle on an iPod,
Uh-huh.
you would listen to an album and you knew when this song is over, Life in the Fast Lane
Oh,
starts next.
yes.
Your
It's
brain
you can start the
pre-anticipates.
next song.
Your brain does that. It pre-anticipates what's happening next. So when you thread that together in a temporal way, the brain holds it together,
Mm.
in an intact, and I can go deeper into the brain research why I know this is true, but you can feel this is true. Good teachers create stories that you have to tell at dinner with your family, right? Whatever that looks like. And to me, it happens in the art room a lot because art is a big, hot, sloppy mess. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It can't
Yep.
be. It's hard for it to be like a worksheet. I mean, art is different, and it smells a certain way, it feels a certain way. There's a lot of your senses involved.
There, I mean, it's just making memories and making stories and kind of just constant inspiration in whatever way. And I love to, I know we started that conversation talking about collaborating with other teachers and what that sort of looks like too. We like to go down the tangents, but I love, but I love too how it's kind of like in a way we all have our strengths, right? So as an educator, as an art educator, as a creative person, typically it might be a little bit easier to say, oh, let's try this without too much hesitation. And so you can find those teachers that are like giving you those lists of what they're learning about in their class, how they want to collaborate with you, and then hone in on your skills as that educator to say, all right, cool, I can create a lot from a little. So here's what I'm going to do, and here's how we're going to tie that together for our students, right? Is to just teamwork, that collaboration to really try to make those connections for our students.
Brilliant, brilliant. So let me take that one more place. I'm
Yeah.
working in an alternative school in Ohio, and there's some of the toughest kids. At this point in my life, send me to the toughest places because I'm Yoda by now. I don't have an ego. Things don't bother me. And I don't know. I get to these kids. And this one kid would the teacher said, he won't do anything. He won't do anything. He won't do anything. So I just sat across from him and talked about stuff in general. But then he finally said he had a truck. I said, tell me about your truck. Well, it's this GMC, and it's got, he knew the engine, he knew 12-411 Positrack, he knew the turbo automatic B&M shift kit. I know these things, and if I didn't, I'm recording or I'm taking notes because tonight, guess what? Tomorrow I will know these things.
Yes.
So I go home and I make a drawing list on how to draw that exact truck.
Okay.
I put it on my website like it's been there 10 years, and it's not been there 10 years. It's just for him. The next day I go, that's so weird that you like that truck. Because I did this lesson about how to draw that truck. It's step by step. I don't know if you could do it or not. I got him, man. I got him. Give me just this much time. Look, we're not always what they need, but we're amazing at becoming what they require. I call it chameleonization. We become or we go find. We're librarians of motivation. And tell me that's not the coolest thing in the whole freaking planet.
It's pretty cool. It's definitely pretty cool.
Right.
Speaking of pretty cool, I have one person in the chat here who is desperate to see the fish behind you. Can you show us the fish?
You mean the fish over on that one? Hold on.
It was behind you at some point, but they said they're doing a recycled art project.
I bought this from a Kansas artist who makes these. These are the trays, the trays that you have. By the way, these are screws with those rubberized screw-ons so you don't get stuck.
Yes.
Right? And so these are all, by the way, here's some beer cans, past blue ribbon. Right? So a person, all they need is a little subframe, a piece of wood, a scrap of wood underneath. This could be a lot of things. It could even be styrofoam. But I can see in a classroom, look how we use that fish to hang it up here.
Yeah, I love the chain.
You put the fish on. Fell in love with this because it's so simple, but I'm always collecting things like that.
How is the metal attached to the frame, Kevin?
Screws, and it's pretty overt.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it is just, can you imagine with a drill and some screws, some students just losing their mind? Now here we got, right here we got, this is just bring in a pile of this, buy that kit that has all kinds of different sizes of screws, and you're on your way. So this is one of those things. And yes, you can cut yourself. This is probably junior high school, because these edges can be pretty sharp,
Right.
But I tell you what, I've never had an art room where someone didn't bleed, but I've never lost a finger. And I always tell kids, sometimes you gotta bleed for your art. That sounds terrible. This is like one of my sculptures from an
That's
old window frame.
awesome. It
I
feels
try to
very
have my
Louise
stuff
Nevelson.
around. Huh?
I said it feels very Louise Nevelson as well.
It is exactly Louise Nevelson. And by the way, there are these kits you can buy. This is a light table kit that we just found so my kid could build on top of it, because something about that glowing light. And this thing was on Amazon for like, some of these prices have come so far down. I can't even imagine what I would have done, because I could have paid for that out of pocket and bought a few of those.
Yeah, there's definitely good stuff to add to our classroom too. And a lot of that technology and those things that our students really gravitate towards are becoming a little bit easier to get, or there's grants, or there's, you know, those prices are coming down for educators. Now tell us about this, because you can't just put something in frame and not tell me about it.
So if you've seen Big Bang Theory, you've seen these robots. I started buying these robots when they first came out. I was keeping an eye on the fact that there are some kids who have a long-term illness and miss a year of school. And I thought, well, if they could attend school on one of these, and then this thing was on The Good Wife and Big Bang Theory. But my son and I, we wanted to anthropomorphize. So we started making it, making it have its own little robot arms and stuff like that. So these
That's
things now are
amazing.
probably, a used one is probably $1,200, and a new one's probably $2,500. And you think, well, that's a lot, but a school could afford a small fleet of these. Here's the other thing: is I can ship that to an art gallery that I'm partnering with, and then my
Yeah.
kids, I can log on to that from my classroom and walk through that art gallery that the kids will never get to go to.
I
So,
mean, that's very cool.
so
Yeah.
this is the latest. The latest is called a Teami, Temi. And it's like what does it look? It's a Roomba meets Alexa. It even charges your phone in the back. You can send a beer to your spouse in the other room. Your face is on the front, so you log in and boom, there it goes. So during these times of the pandemic, think about that. That can go
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. These can go anywhere a wheelchair can go. So I think every school should have a few of these for the kids who have to miss. Can you imagine? And so this is already happening out there in the world. So
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
the pandemic, I've just doubled down on really researching things we can do with these. These aren't $30,000. You can do a GoFundMe campaign and buy one of these.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
There
first
are
time you get a
feasible ways
kid,
for sure.
with a long-term illness sitting in your class via the robot, and everyone's talking to her like they're just talking to her like it's her. Are you coming to
Yeah.
recess, Alexa? She goes down the hall, and you're sitting there crying because she's missed all this school because of chemo, and she wore the wig the first day, but then the kids didn't make fun of her, and her mom calls you crying and saying, thank you for finding a way for my daughter to go to school.
Yeah. I mean,
Technology is great, but it's not about the technology. It's about what we can do.
it's about the connection again, right? It's about how we build those connections and why that fully matters for sure. Okay, so let's bring it back just a little bit, because after our chat, we are going to talk about, or I'll be sharing in the Instagram story about your YouTube channel. You've got a bunch of amazing videos up there of you performing music. Your like digital dad series is really fun. Your art snacks are really fun. So there's a lot of stuff and content that you're sharing with the world that is really cool to integrate into the art classroom and any educational classroom, any educational setting. So I'll be sharing your Twitter handle and all of those fun things afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes. But can you tell us just a little bit about your content that you like to share? Tell us a little bit about Digital Dad. Tell us a little bit about the drawing that you do and some of those YouTube series that you like to share.
Well, I don't want to be anyone's replacement, but as I travel from school to school, I see art programs cut and the kids don't have art at all.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, who am I to presume to be their teacher? But then I got over it. And I said, you know what? I might be Bob Ross on a budget, but I can make 100+ drawing videos so that kids in second grade, third grade, fourth grade have some kind of drawing lesson. And yes, I'm going to sneak in content. And yes, I'm going to talk about symmetry, proportions of the face, but it also happens to be fractions. Every art teacher knows that we teach every subject.
Yes.
Just we don't get credit for it.
No,
They
just
think
all melds together.
Everyone thinks Escher's a mathematician. Escher's a freaking artist, okay? He just happens to be a brilliant in geometry and in math. But we should partner more about Escher. He's this wonderful through line, between art and math, and art and geometry, and art and so many things. And we've been doing that history. Think about the history that we teach, right? And so it's pretty sophisticated. If you think about 2-point, 3-point perspective, my God, that's geometry on steroids.
Yes,
but we don't call it that. So I got over myself and said, I'm going to make 100+ videos. And I just aimed my phone back in the day. I just had a phone, and I would tape it to a lamp in a hotel room, take a piece of paper about that size, and I would draw. And I knew that these would never get into an elementary classroom unless I included content, not just art. So I did simple machines, layers of the earth. I did the solar system. I did biomes. I did a pond habitat. I'm teaching them to draw fish, really, and shading. So I
Yeah,
got
that's
mine in
awesome.
there and I got theirs in there, but I knew the cost of admission was so I actually looked up their standards and had them beside my drawing. So I'm reading from the standards in writing or English or science. And it sounds like I'm just a really smart art teacher. I'm reading from a thing I
But
researched.
you do your research. You know, you gotta get yourself prepared in order to teach. That's how it works.
I feel like we can Trojan horse art into places that don't have art, and that's the main reason I started Art Snacks, this network, and this is over 10 years ago, and paid monthly to keep that going for the longest time out of my pocket. I didn't make any money from it. I'm not trying to make money. I don't charge for membership, but I have a lot of kids who they get art there and they share art there because they need that connection. Like if I'm really into manga and I don't have a single kid in Beloit, Kansas that is, I feel like a weirdo. I
Yeah.
feel wrong. But if I
Yes.
connect to that kid in Hong Kong who she also does manga and we become fast friends across the world because of this network, then I did a good thing. And so
Yes.
this is my tithing, is that I keep Art Snacks going, and I'll share a link to make sure they can get there. There's a sign in and sign up. You can sign up. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Again, this is free. But if you might find teachers in Hong Kong, Singapore, teachers, I've gone all over the world and I've invited them. So there just happens to be an accidental huge bunch of teachers there. So if that's interesting, and it's a closed network, elementary kids aren't going to see anything bad because I do make it where you have to sign up. And there are people who get mad about that and say it's not open enough. And I'm like, you guys, I got kindergartners in there. I
Yeah,
can't
we
have
have to
just anyone.
protect our babies for
And
sure.
even a college life drawing of a nude can't be, I'm sorry, it can't be on Art Snacks because I got little ones. So
Yeah,
that's not my vibe. I'm not against anything. It's just when you got little ones, you got to build a certain kind of a community. And I've done over 10 years of that. So I feel like I never left the classroom. I just got a different kind of classroom. You know what I
for
mean?
sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean that right. So you kind of just dove a little bit into the more tech world. You're super active on Twitter and super active on, kind of continuously speaking with educators. Now, have you had a chance to do keynotes this year still? Because there haven't been as much in-person professional development. And then can you tell us just a little bit about where people can find out more about that and you speaking,
Oh, you're
especially
so much.
again, Kevin, it is so rare that an art teacher is a keynote speaker. So rare. So to see that and then to see how you connect with all educators, but with that like little nudge of, right, is inspirational. So can you just tell us a little bit more about your speaking?
First, I love it when the art teacher comes up and says, "Oh my God,
I get
30 years, you're the first keynote that's an art teacher." But I can't,
it.
I can't just talk about that or I'll lose everybody. So
Right.
I'm covert, but art teachers know. Um, so I've done a few. I've done one boots on the ground presentation for the last 3 weeks each week. Typically in August, I'm on a stage in a school 5 weeks, 5 days out of the week. Then I come home Saturday. I get to be home Sunday. I fly out. And I'm back on the road again. That's how it used to be before the pandemic. And so I'm waiting for that to come back. And I'm not wasting time. I'm trying to get better at things. But I'm starting to. A lot of the things I'm doing right now are for kids. So I've been talking to alternative schools, getting kids up, playing music, doing art. You would not believe some of the fun we had in Phoenix recently in a great alternative school. Kids are coming up with their art, and we're talking about how to build their own Etsy store, how to start selling, marketing. I got teachers up there saying, "Can I do it too?" I'm like, "Of
That's
course you can."
awesome.
And so
Yeah.
they're on now first Instagram because they got to build that audience. So you got to get some following that might be their fans or their customers. And so it's a process, but it's not magic. You can teach it. And
Yeah. I love
that's
it. I
really
love it.
fun. So I guess the long answer short or short answer long is I do a lot of virtual and I'm just waiting to start getting, I got my 2 shots. I'm ready to get
We're
out
getting
there.
there. We're getting
Yeah,
there.
can't wait.
I
Can't
know.
wait.
I was I'll connect there is that I was thinking after the 2 shots, I was like, oh, we're all good. But it's like still a slow process. So I feel like there's a lot of like social norms where we want it to just be like a light switch, but it obviously is going to be like a slower meld back into reintroducing things. So that's really interesting to let back into our life a little bit. Yes, it's hard.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm going to ask our trivia question in a second here, but before I do that, I do want to just have you leave us with, I mean, everything you've said today has been inspirational, specifically for art educators, but can you just leave us with a few parting words of advice or encouragement as we try to close out our school year?
Okay. Words of encouragement. Think of it this way, okay? We are still, I believe, upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. I don't think we've had a software update since then. So think about what we are. We are people who learn in motion. We were good at that. In fact, we are the descendants of the ones who are best at that. The ones who can't do that, their descendants aren't here. So literally, we are designed to learn, right? And designed to learn with our kids with us, not all by ourselves. So imagine that we're walking over this hill, looking down to this valley. There are grazing animals down there. Some things will eat you, some things you can eat. And your kids are right there learning beside you. And so if you've ever thought, I'm not up to this, I can't do this, I keep remembering the kids are watching. I have to role model. I don't have to role model perfect. Perfect is the enemy of done. Right. I have to role model a kind of bravery that says, you know what, we don't know, but we will know. And I'm going to teach you that. So I tell kids, if I like you, I'll tell you what to know, but I love you. We're going to learn how to know. Yes. That to me is exciting. And I tell you what, if you want to reboot your whole career, if you want to get your mojo back, if you want to do that, get back on that learning train. Yeah. Jump back on that learning and connect with your brothers and sisters out there. They're doing crazy things, and do some collaborative things together. If you're out there in the sticks, make sure your kids know there's a bigger world. Small places kill big minds. You have to connect to a bigger world so those kids see your audience might not be in this town. Yeah. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means this town's too small. Yeah. I want to teach you to see a world out there. So the upside potential here is amazing. I mean, our job has always been fun. And then, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's hard, right? And it's okay. Paint your scar tissue. We're artists. We do that. We sing about it. We write about it. We write poems, whatever. But keep fighting the good fight. Grow your network. Be bigger. The smartest person in the room is the room.
Oh, yes.
So how big is your room? So do that, right? And then please hit me up. You can hit me up on social media. I'm Kevin Honeycutt everywhere. At Kevin Honeycutt, Twitter, Instagram. I got a little underscore, a little dash, a little underscore because someone had Kevin Honeycutt, who doesn't even use the account, by the way.
Gosh.
And he wants to sell it to me for $10,000. I'm not going to do that. So Kevin underscore Honeycutt. But anyway, hit me up on social media and trust me, I'll hit you back. It might not be this minute. I might be in the talk, but I'll call you back. And I connect with people.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin. I am so psyched to share this chat. We will be saving it in the Instagram IGTV tab at the Art of Ed, so feel free to watch it, share with people after the fact. I'll be posting a bit more in the Art of Ed story after this as well, so that you guys can follow along to see Kevin's TEDx talk and follow along to his Twitter page, and I'll share a bunch of links so that you guys can follow him to see more. Now, quick before we go, we got to do our trivia question. So hopefully y'all read his our little graphic that we put up. So my question is, what levels has Kevin taught art to? Okay, so those of you that know how this works, type into the chat, and first person gets this cool sticker. What levels has Kevin taught art to?
Thank you.
K-12, Monster Mom 1103. I love that handle. Monster Mom, if you could go ahead and message the Art of Ed and just say, I want a sticker, here's my address, then I will go ahead and send that right to you. So thank you all for responding. And again, thank you all for being here and helping to support our Instagram live chats. And as always, Kevin, thank you for being you and sharing your light with the world.
You all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.